Namaste. Hello, everyone. Yes, apologies for being late, explaining Nepali. Just coming live now. If someone could let me know if it's working properly, that would be great. Lots to review after what was, I guess, another very disappointing day for Nepal, ultimately. The first time in Nepal's Cricket World Cup League 2 history, they've ended up with not a single point from the potential 8 that they could have had. Every single one of the try series, of course, has 4 one internationals for each of the 3 sides within it, and ultimately Nepal are sitting exactly where they started. Namaste, everyone. If you're coming in on Facebook there, if you could just let us know if you can hear me okay, it would be great to hear from you all. So a big hello to Amrit, to Bishnu, to Sunam, to Prakash, to Antosh Chetri, to Paresh Devkota. I'm okay. Thank you for asking, Paresh. Yeah, tough day for Nepal, no doubt about it. And again, I'm looking a bit tired because I didn't get much sleep because I was up at about 6:30 caught the second half of the first innings, and then the whole second innings entirely, watched every ball of that. Let's forget it and talk about the Nepal Premier League. We will talk a little bit about the Nepal Premier League coming up, but what I want to do first is review today's game to start with and talk about where that leaves the Cricket World Cup League 2 table. Then we can get into some Q&As and run through exactly where Nepal are at. Obviously, they're now in a very invidious position. It's a strange day's weather in Dubai. That would be the first point to note. Looked like a really weird day. I used to live in Dubai when I worked for the ICC, so I remember those days where it gets sort of hazy and muggy. I don't know how humid it was, but it looked really difficult batting conditions early. And yet again, I thought Junaid Sadiq was outstanding. He's had a wonderful series. I think he's picked up 11 or 12 wickets between the 4 games that he's played. 10 overs, 2 for 36 for him. Again, Kushal Patel got a low score at the top. But yeah, 10 wickets in total for Junaid Sadiq across those 4 matches. And I think before we get into Nepal's performance, huge credit has to go to the United Arab Emirates for bouncing back from 49 all out to taking a second win out of 4 in the series is quite remarkable. So huge credit to Lalchan Rajput, to the standing captain, to Alishan Sharifu, who I thought batted really well earlier in the series. Only got 18 today, but he looked a real threat again up top. And then Mohammad Wasim, the T20 captain, who was quite brilliantly the way in which he batted. The partnership with Mohammad Shaddad took the game away, and they might have uncovered another superstar player there, Mohammad Shaddad, 96 for him off 123. But getting back to the first innings first, another case of too many starts for Nepali batters and no one kicking on, with the exception of Rohit Paudel. I don't think anyone made, well, actually Dipender Singh already made that 70, didn't he? But just a case of too many starts and not enough high scores. So Paudel's 109 was the highest score in the series for Nepal. Dipender Singh already made that 70, but outside of that, lots of 30s and 40s and 50s, and they don't win you one-day internationals. When you get in, you have to kick on. Asif Sheikh again got in and got out in the 30s. Bim Sharkey made 48. He was the top scorer. Arif Sheikh and Dipender Singh Arwi both got to the 30s as well, although Sheikh took his time to get to 30 before falling to one of his strengths, caught behind to Junaid Sadiq. Another run out, a very costly one of Dipender Singh Arwi. Sheikh was run out too, Asif Sheikh that is, and Kushal Malla I thought was the pick of the batters. He made 45, recalled to the team, batting all the way down at number 7. I thought he might come into the team, but I definitely didn't expect it to be Gulshan Jah that he would miss out for. So yeah, really, really strange decision that Gulshan Jah missed out. But hopefully he can bounce back in the T20 format. Certainly the T20 format is the one in which Nepal have had much more success recently. Things looking very difficult. Nice contribution. I thought it was a good 9th wicket partnership that put on 38 between Lamachani and Kushal Malla. They both batted nicely, and that got them, Nepal, up to what I thought was about a par total in a difficult enough batting conditions day, but it did flatten out a bit second innings. Despite the early wicket for Karen KC, that dismissed Aryan Sharma from a very first ball. Wonderful catch by Asif Sheikh. His glove work has been fantastic for quite a long time now. I'm just going to see if we can ask away. I don't mind you guys putting comments in, but please don't put them over and over again because I can't read the other ones. So if you want to make your comment, just do it once. Point noted, Dev. We'll talk about that later. No problem. So yeah, certainly you look at the way in which the entire innings came together for Nepal. 239, you felt it gave them a fighting chance. And then in the 21st over, when they got that third wicket, dismissing Sohaib Khan, I thought Rajbanshi bowled much better today. His first 6 overs were superb. Maybe he could have kept going. But then the way in which he kind of drifted down the leg side to Shadad in particular, he was punished and ended up with not particularly good figures of 1 for 48 from his 10 overs. So for Karen KC, he fought back really well towards the end, but the game was gone at that stage because it was a fantastic partnership worth the best part of 150, 147 between Sohaib Khan and Mohammad Wasim, who played so well. Nepal, with the exceptional Amachani, who bowled so well again, I thought he was the pick of the attack with 1 for 35. They just looked a little bit kind of lacking in penetration, lacking in X factor. I thought maybe one misstep during the second innings as well was when he brought Kushal Bertel on to bowl. I thought that was the time to go to Kushal Malla, although he then belatedly went to Kushal Malla. Did Rohit Paudel. That was a costly over, and that sort of took the momentum away from Nepal in the defence of that total. But ultimately, they were very comfortably beaten, even though it dragged out to the final over. Somehow, it was a 4-wicket win for UAE, and that will get us the opportunity to talk about the points table before we get into some Q&As. I know plenty of questions coming in on both platforms. Again, please just send the question the once. There's no need to put it in there dozens of times. So, yeah, what that means is that the table now is looking very, very, very difficult for both sides. In fact, if I've done my mathematics correctly, and I'm going to do a full run-through video on YouTube tomorrow explaining all the permutations for the remaining year of ICC Men's Cricket World Cup League 2. Remember, 3 sides have played 20 games. The other 5 have played 24. The reason Oman, Nepal and UAE haven't yet played 24 is Nepal couldn't host that series on home soil, with the TU cricket ground being regenerated, renovated and redone. So they will host 2 home series next year. That's really the kind of only ace up the sleeve that Nepal have right now. They're sitting in a position whereby you'd have to imagine of the remaining 16 matches, they're probably going to need to win 12, 13, possibly 14 of them, depending upon how things go. So ultimately, Nepal in a very difficult position, but so too are the UAE. They've got 16 games left. They might need to win 14 of them to get into a top 4 spot. But for both those bottom 2 sides, you may now be considering a reassessment and a realignment of goals. A reminder, I get lots of questions about this, and there was a bit of discussion on Twitter today, not that I'm on there too often, I was tagged into, asking, well, hold on, if you finish 5th or 6th, do you lose your ODI status, or could you lose your ODI status? No. If you finish in the top 6 spots, you are guaranteed your ODI status for certain. Top 4 go automatically to the qualifier. The bottom 4, 2 of them could lose their ODI status at 7th and 8th place. Right now, it's Nepal and the UAE. They'll head to that Cricket World Cup qualifier playoff with that threat of losing ODI status hanging over their head. And that's just the reality of it. That is the way it works. If you finish 5th or 6th, you're guaranteed your ODI status, but you'll still have to get through the playoff to get to the qualifier to try and get to the World Cup. So it's a funny system in one way, because you could finish 8th and qualify for the Cricket World Cup still, but you could finish 5th and actually not qualify for the Cricket World Cup or even the qualifier itself. So plenty of questions coming in. We will get to them, but I'll just run you through the points table. If I've done my maths right, I'm almost certain that the United States of America have now qualified officially for that Cricket World Cup qualifier. The reason why, they've won 18 games and lost only 6. They are 15 points clear of Canada in 5th place, but 4 teams would need to overtake them. And because Scotland, the Netherlands, Oman and Canada play against each other quite a bit, because the remaining games they have, I believe even if the USA lose their last 12 games, which they're very unlikely to do, they will still finish in the top 4, because teams with the tiebreaker classification, the way it works is most points, then most wins, then net run rate. And because the USA haven't had a game washed out yet, their 36-point total is actually basically worth 37, because every other side, barring the UAE, have had a game watched out. But it's very unlikely the UAE will catch any of those sides and get involved. So with the way in which the table is now set, we can guarantee that USA are going to be one of the top 4 pretty much no matter what happens. Scotland and the Netherlands are looking very, very good as well. And then Oman and Canada are probably sitting pretty alongside Namibia for that 4th spot. However, For Nepal and the UAE, they're not out of the hunt yet. They're going to have to play very well in that last year of cricket, and they do have the benefit, Nepal and UAE, of having 16 games left rather than 12 that 5 of the 6 other sides have. So not all hope is gone, but it's going to take a run, a little bit like Monty Desai managed to conjure out of his side. And that was, remember, 11 wins from 12 altogether. 8 of those wins were on home soil, where they beat, who was it? Let's think back now. Scotland and Namibia in the first series. Who was in the second? UAE and, was it Papua New Guinea in the second series? I think it was UAE and Papua New Guinea. They also won 3 out of 4 in Dubai in that away series in between the two. That was all between February and March of 2023. So they're going to have to do the same next year. But if we look ahead to their fixtures next year for Nepal, they will host 2 of them. I think the first one they host is going to be that makeup series against Oman and the United Arab Emirates. That'll come in March in Kathmandu. What that will mean is all the sides will then have played 24 matches. Will have a really good sense. You suspect that Nepal are probably going to have to win all 4 games there on home soil, and they're going to have to find a few solutions. Struggles continue against left-arm spin, and struggles also continue, being frank, in this format. They've had a really poor cycle. They've played 20 games. They've won just 5 of them. And the only reason they're sitting above the UAE is they've got those 2 non-results as well. So that pretty much wraps up where the table is at. In terms of questions, we're going to come on to those now. But my final thoughts on the table would be USA, Scotland, and the Netherlands, almost certain to be 3 of those top 4. Who will take that 4th and final spot? I don't know, but the realignment or the reviewing of things from Nepal and the UAE, they might need to be thinking we should be targeting 5th or 6th spot rather than 4th, because at least if you finished in 5th or 6th, you're guaranteed your ODI status, and then you have the qualifier playoff to come. So lots of posts on social media today talking from fans saying, can please make sure you hold and host that Cricket World Cup qualifier playoff that Namibia got to host back in 2027 or 2023 for the 2023 World Cup. For the 2027 edition, well, maybe it would be the best thing if Nepal can host that, given that they're likely now to be in the bottom 4. But they've got a lot of cricket left to play, and they shouldn't give up hope. I know Stuart Law and Rob Powell won't be giving up hope, the leadership there for Nepal. But I think they're going to have to win. If we just kind of guesstimate it out, the 2 games on home soil against Oman are massive. They're in essence double swinging matches. But if they could win their 4 games on home soil, they would get to 20 points and be potentially only 4 points behind Oman in 4th place. That would leave them with a very achievable position of the top 5 or top 6, but also maybe a top 4 spot still. Those 2 games against Oman in March, probably the 2 biggest games that Nepal will play in their short ODI history. Okay, let's get on to some questions. We might start over on YouTube. Thanks so much to everyone for joining me. We've got hundreds of viewers on both channels, so great to be with you. And yeah, I'm seeing some pretty strong views. We're going to answer all questions. I'm not going to filter anything today. I know there's a lot of strong feeling, a lot of people very upset with the results, and I promise you I'm going to try and get to all the questions. So we're going to start over here on YouTube. If you are leaving a question in, please tell me where you're watching from. Always love to hear what part of the world you are watching on from. So this comes from B to start with. He says, this ODI team has been exposed as no hunger to win. In order to progress, Nepal needs a new ODI team with new management having hunger to win. I don't think they need a new management. Might they look at some alternative players in the next series? Possibly. But it's pretty close to their best squad, I would suspect. They've been outplayed by... maybe not surprisingly by USA, given USA's quality and ODI form of late. But the big surprise has been the 2 UAE defeats. They will feel that they should have won at least one of those games, if not both of them. 48 hours ago, UAE were embarrassed, were humbled, were bowled out for their lowest score in their history, albeit at a different stadium across at Dubai Sports City, the main ground rather than the ICC Academy. But Nepal should be comfortable and confident of beating the UAE given their current ODI form. I wouldn't be throwing the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. Shri, that's a really nice message. Thanks so much. That's Shri Harry Thappa saying, Taklid, I love you. Kratos says, how about buying 3 or 4 players from India? No, not a good idea. I think Nepal do a really good job with their domestically born and bred players and developed players locally. And it's obviously so many players of high quality that we're going to see in the Nepal Premier League. It starts in just 12 days from now. We're going to see and hopefully get the joy returning and the good feeling coming back into cricket. Chris Dye says, the only reason Nepal is losing is because the Taklid is not in the commentary box. I promise you that's not the case. It's nothing to do with me. I wish I was there. Well-advertised reasons that I was due to be, but sadly, there was no budget for them to have me there. So would love to be there, but they just weren't able to afford the flights and the hotel for me to be there, which is a great shame. But hopefully the next Nepal series, I'll be back in the commentary box. I certainly found these 4 games really tough to watch, and had lots of thoughts and opinions that I wanted to give, but wasn't able to give those on air. That's why we're doing these little live sessions. Akil Nepal says, Taklidai, I'm so disappointed with the boys. Are we really learning from our mistakes? I think they played averagely. I think they played pretty poorly, to be honest, particularly, but they have been then on the back end of some big moments. The 2 run-outs today killed them again. Dropping the catches 4 days ago killed them. I wouldn't be persecuting these guys or criticizing them too highly. They're playing in different conditions to the ones that they're used to. They have a few shortcomings in the ODI side. There's no doubt about that. I thought Nandan Yadav, for example, bowled really well today, but he's not the finished article yet in that format. It was only the 47th, 49th over that Karen KC started taking the pace off and going to slower ball bouncers, and things started to look more difficult. Kel Premi Nepali says, hey Andrew, what's this about Nepal hosting the Cricket World Cup qualifier playoff? That is not confirmed, but the most likely thing will be is that one of the 8 sides that goes to the Cricket World Cup qualifier playoff will host it. So the speculation regarding that is because of the fact that Nepal are looking more likely to be in the bottom 4 now, and they've got great facilities by the associate standards. And in fact, I can't wait to see the new TU International Cricket Ground. That looks like a world-class facility now with the additions to it. So it will depend upon the structure of that tournament. I would imagine it's going to be 2 groups of 4, given it's an 8-team tournament. Last time it was a 6-team tournament. The last time it was the highest ranked side that didn't qualify in Namibia that hosted the event. I think there's a reasonably strong chance it will be either Nepal or Namibia. It could be the UAE as well. And I suspect if it was Canada, who are currently the other side in the bottom 4, they probably won't host it. They wouldn't bring all the sides all the way across that part of the world. It's likely to be hosted in somewhere between April and June 2027. June would be too late for Nepal to host it, and June would be too late for the UAE to host it as well. I think it's also unlikely that one of the top 4 sides from the Challenge League hosts it. Although I know for a fact from being in Jersey, in August, Jersey's facilities are world-class, and they'd certainly do a good job at hosting it. So it's all about the ICC working with the individual members, seeing who's able to host it, the best time of year to host it, the financial decisions in terms of how much the event budget is, and all those sort of things. Nepal would certainly be a good story and would get great crowds. And I would imagine if Nepal are in the bottom 4, the ICC will strongly feel that they could be a good host for that edition. There's no announcement yet. We won't even know or have a better idea till we get to the bottom 4. Diamond says, what's even the point of playing the PM Cup if the top performers like Arjun Kamal, Tritraj Dash, Aman, Kiran Thaguna and Anil Saad don't even get a chance in the ODI team? Respect the domestic performers. Look, I think that's a great point. I think you have to back your domestic system. The PM Cup isn't probably quite at the same standard or even close to the standard of the Nepal Premier League, so it's easier in the T20 format to pick players out of that who do well against seasoned international stars rather than against just the domestic players. But yeah, certainly the other one who you haven't mentioned there is Bashir Ahmed, who I think is a really good option in ODI cricket. Let's see how he plays out. Just need a little bit of water here, guys. Sorry. Okay, Sankalpa Sharma says Shikhar Dhawan to the Pokhara Avengers for Nepal Premier League. I don't know if that's been announced. If it is, great news. I really enjoyed having him there last year. Elon Musk says come to Nepal. Doubt that's Elon Musk himself. I certainly hope it's not. Although he's born in South Africa, maybe he likes his cricket. Dish says, any news in the ICC Cricket World Cup Challenge League? I heard somewhere that it's finished and will not host the remaining matches in 2026. No, that's definitely not the case. They'll have to host the remaining 2 series to work out. The pathway's already set, if that makes sense. In theory, it could change for the 2031 World Cup, but they can't change it mid-format, mid-structure, mid-4 years. It wouldn't be fair on any of the teams. So the likes of Jersey, Italy, Uganda and Kuwait are the top 4 sides at the moment. Papua New Guinea and Hong Kong also in with a bit of a chance. Going to get to the Facebook questions next, but still going with the YouTube ones at the moment. Sharehub says, I love you, Taklidai. That's very kind. Lots of love back to you. Where are you watching from? Let me know where you're watching on from. Ganesh says, big respect for Taklidai. Thank you so much. RCB says, no matches will be held in the TU Stadium. It will be the Mulpani due to the second phase of construction. I didn't know that. And if that is true, that's really interesting. But I would expect those games to be played in March at the TU with the crowds that you would expect and with the interest in those games that you expect as well. So, if you've got a piece of inside information that I don't there, really going to be interesting to see it. Sanjay Silwaz says, Coach's Law and Gyanendra Mala must go. This is something I've been pretty strong on with Nepal fans from the very moment I've been involved in any sort of public guise, in any commentary. I love all of the Nepal fans. You guys are inspirational and awesome in every capacity, but the only thing I would say is to try and be a little bit less emotional. It's hard because I know how much you care, and I also know I'm Irish. We're very emotional. We wear our hearts in our sleeves big time as well. But you can't, I suppose, ride the waves of the high and then the lows of the low too hard. You've got to be a little bit balanced and supportive of the team when they're having good times and bad times, if that makes sense. So Stuart Law's done a fantastic job since he's come in. I think Gyanendra Mala is a marvelous young coach. He's still a very young coach. Give him time, but he's just a very composed and measured human, and he's a really good guy. Both deserve the full support, as do all the players, of all the fans. They've had a poor series, there's no doubt. They've lost all 4 games, but that happens. Okay, Vasker says hello. Diru says we love you forever. Thank you so much. That's really kind. KP Oli, I don't think that's your real name. He says, what do I think about T20 status for Nepal? Yes, absolutely. That's for the Nepal Premier League, you mean? They absolutely deserve that. And I think there's other leagues that are not of that standard that would have that. So let's hope that will come soon. As we also hope that the sanctioning comes from the ICC that will give the official ability to bring more than just the 4 full member overseas players who played recently. Pravesh says, do I think that Rohit should be removed from captain and 7 player changes are needed now? No, on both fronts. Maybe look at 1 or 2 changes. I certainly think that only 1 left-hander in the 11, given Nepal's struggles against left-arm spin, is an oversight. So I'd like to see Bashir Ahmed in the squad. I also would not have dropped Gulshan Jah today, but maybe he was carrying a niggle. I'm not in and around the camp. I'm not in the team hotel as I usually am, so I don't know. So it's hard for me to say or to judge. Kamil Shahi, says, from dreams of playing in the ODI World Cup to dreams of hosting the qualifier playoff, our team has really moved so far. Again, I get those emotions and understand how tough it is right now. Got to keep believing in the boys. Got to think they can have a good run next year and see if they can come back. And great credit to the UAE. I thought they were excellent today. Mohamed Wasim's innings in particular, I just thought completely changed the momentum of the game. Okay, let's get over to Facebook and get to the questions. Ravi Sapkota says, why did the umpire give 4 extra runs in Nandan Yadav's first over? I don't think he did. I think there was a 5 wides, wasn't there? Unless I was watching something different. Let me have a look at the over by over score. Yeah, so his first over went for 6. Yeah, there was 5 off the first over and then 6 off the second. I'm not too sure about that one. I think that might have been a temporary problem with the graphics that was corrected afterwards. If you check the official scorecard, it just says the score at the end of the second over was 11 for 1. So I don't think that's right. Although I know Nandan Yadav struggled with his wides there. Nishal Shrestha says, hey, Lenny, what do I think? Or do I think fatigue was the main reason for poor performance? A factor for sure. And I think if you assess it and you look at things, they haven't played well in these 4 ODIs. And the difference between the 2 formats is massive. Kushal Patel's bowling is a great example. I know he didn't have a great time with the ball throughout the T20s, but it's a very different set of skills to be trying to take wickets in ODIs than it is to be taking wickets in T20s, where, in T20s, you're basically bowling defensively and trying to create a run restriction. And as a kind of correlation, you will get wickets coming your way. In ODIs, you need to build pressure by bowling really well and then finding a way to take wickets. And, Raj Banshi's spell would be a good example today. He bowled quite defensively and ended up with a situation where he was brilliant. I think it was 6 overs, 1 for 11. But at no point did he have a slip in place. At no point was he looking for more wickets. And as a consequence, then when Shadad got comfortable with him, he just started coming across the stumps a bit and put away the errant balls. I think his 7th over, he bowled 1 bad ball in 36, and then his 7th to 10th over didn't come as well. Sridhar Dakal says, Takli died today's match. Makes me very sad. I understand that completely. Gulzab Manak says, send me your mobile number, please. Not going to do that publicly. Drop me a message on Instagram is usually the best way to get in touch directly. I'll always try and get back to everyone if I can. Sierra Barrel says, after the T20 World Cup 2026, Nepal should only focus on ODI cricket. I guess this is a great point. So we're going to still have one of the great journeys in Nepali sports history in 4 months' time. There's going to be or 3 months' time. It's 90 days away, basically. There's going to be a migration of biblical proportions across the border for Nepal to support their country in their third ever T20 World Cup. But straight after that, and I cannot wait to see that journey, and it's going to be one of the stories of the cricketing year. I promise you that. It's going to be very special. After that, they've got probably their 4 most important ODIs in history on home soil in March. So that gives you a sense of how big the challenge is. Nepal will rightly now have almost a sole focus on T20 cricket building up to that T20 World Cup. Nepal Premier League, the second ever edition of that, 17th of November to the 13th of December, followed by what I would imagine is going to be at least a preparatory tour and possibly a home triangular series as well in the T20I format, and maybe even more games against a full member nation before the T20 World Cup. They have to zone in and focus on that. But then they quickly need to realign their sights and get a focus on the ODIs too. It shows how difficult the top levels of the modern associate game is and why Cricket World Cup League 2 is so difficult. Jay Yadav, that's very kind. Thank you. Sunita, I'm sorry you're sad. Ram says, I don't know why ICC are allowing UAE and USA buying players from India and Pakistan. I just need to challenge that. They're not buying any players. And in fact, the majority of that UAE side have learnt and played a huge amount of their cricket in the UAE. They've got a really good development system there. And a lot of those players have had remarkable personal journeys to get to a point of playing for their new nation in the UAE. In the USA, it's the same. I know many players like Milind Kumar, like Saurabh Netravalkar, like Mayank Patel had played in India before they emigrated permanently to the United States. But they are the laws, they're the rules of the playing conditions. And that's what the ICC sets. You can qualify under residency via a 3-year permanent residency within the country. So you don't actually even need to have a passport yet. There's no point in worrying about that. They're the rules. We can't change them whether you want to change them or not. And I don't think you have to be able to set, like with the way the modern world is, you have to have a way in which you can play to a country you move to. It can be a bit cynical. Like I've seen in rugby in Ireland here, players move over as project players that don't really have an affiliation with Ireland from South Africa or New Zealand. And then maybe after they finish their playing career, they go back to their original home. But it's modern sport. It's what it is. Manish Pedal says, what do I think about Kushal Bertel? He's had a difficult series, no doubt about it. I still think he's one of the best 11 players in the country by a distance. He was fantastic in the qualifier. Gopal Pardashi, I haven't seen your comments, bro. Say it once more. Sunil says, can you ask Paris or the president when Cam plans to ask the next PM Cup? Good question. Because how are they going to fit that in January, where it usually is, if the T20 World Cup's that time? Shows again how difficult the schedule is. Maybe they'll put it at the back end of the T20 World Cup and try and push that series with Oman and the UAE to March. The modern schedule and calendar is incredibly difficult. Dipak Thapa says, calling in Hong Kong, nice to hear from you. Mongolian Pun is very angry and using curse words about the Nepal players. They had a tough 4 games, mate. Stand by them and stick with them. Dilip Rizal says, we are upset. We are losing ODI status. Not yet. 2026 is going to be massively important in ODI cricket. To be guaranteed retaining ODI status, they're going to need to finish a minimum of 6th. To do that, what will get them to safety? I would imagine 30 points will get you to safety. So they're probably going to need to win 9 of their last. I'd be pretty confident, well, maybe 32 points. Probably going to have to win 10 of their last 16 to guarantee ODI status. There are so many different permutations, though, and there's a long way to go. Ishwar Chelain says, Takli Dai, what will Nepal's situation be in the following years? Hard to predict, hard to know, but they're going to have to try and rely upon doing something like they did in 2023 and getting that momentum behind them. Sanjay Tiwari says, none of our side are averaging even 40 in ODI cricket. Why are we so awful in this format? Look, I think that's a really good point. There is a lack of consistency amongst the batters. And, you know, in some ways it was sad today. because Rohit Paudel got to a really important landmark. He got to the 2000 ODI run landmark by making 2, but then got out soon after. And, it should have been a celebratory day for him, but he's going to be gutted tonight. Nepal is still very young in its ODI history. If you look at actually the overall records of everyone who's ever played ODI cricket for Nepal, you'll maybe not enjoy, but you might not be surprised as to who the leading average holder is, and that's Paris Khadka. So he only got to play 10 ODIs. He played a huge amount more of List A 50-over cricket for Nepal, obviously. But in official ODIs, with 1 century and 150 from his 10 innings, he averages 35. None of the modern players average more than that. And that sums up one of the challenges and one of the problems. There's some very good players in there. Asif Sheikh and Rohit Paudel are probably, they're the 2 leading run scorers, but they're probably best from a technical perspective in terms of the batters alongside Bim Sharkey. They're averaging 29, 28 and 32 respectively. Sharkey, of the current players, is the highest average. So that's going to give you a sense as to the challenges that Nepal have winning ODIs, particularly if they're not showing the threat with their bowling that they need to. So there's a lot of very good players there, including Kushal Bertel, Dipendra Singh Airi, Kushal Malla, Gulshan Jha, Sampal Kami even, all averaging in between 20 and 26. And they're better players than that, in my opinion. And they need to find a way to start to score more runs more consistently. I hope that's a fair answer. Lovely to hear from Ashish Dahal, who's watching on from Athens, Ohio. My mum was born in Greece, and most of her family still live in Athens in Greece, but this is Athens, Ohio. How would I structure domestic cricket? Is the 9-match PM Cup season enough? Yeah, I think it's pretty good, and I think it's probably more than a lot of the other associate sides have. But the modern way is a lot of people play a huge amount of 20-over cricket and don't have as much focus on the 50-over game. You have to remember 50 overs cricket is, in a way, the associate test cricket, if that makes sense. It should be the pinnacle, and it is the pinnacle, and that is a brilliant league, ICC Men's Cricket World Cup League 2. And I'll tell you something, it's a quality league that has no easy games, and that's why Nepal and the UAE are struggling. I would also say that the Challenge League beneath it, there are 3 or 4 very good sides in that, particularly Jersey. I think Jersey will push whoever they come up against if they can hold on to Ace the Tribe in particular, who they may lose to England. Okay, Narayan Limbu says, Nepal have got to play loads of ODI games. They played too many T20s and trained for that. I think that is a factor. I think the fact the sole focus for probably the 2 months leading in to this ODI series rightly was T20 cricket has made this one a difficult one, a tough one, no doubt. Amit says, please take my name, Takludai. Namaste to you, Amit. Somebody watching from Canberra, Australia, but they just deleted the question or it's just disappeared. Laxman says, change some players. Rajesh says, more games in a short time is the cost of this loss in the series. Don't think so. I just think maybe not adapting across between T20 and ODI cricket very well. Ashish says, I think Nepal need a high quality analyst to help them in this format. He's watching on from Canberra in Australia. I think they've got a really good one in the long-standing team analyst Raman Siwakoti, who's been a big part of their success, and he deserves support too. Arahoy says, having different teams in different formats would help. Kamal says, why is Ireland not coming to Nepal for some matches? Can I make it happen? I'm trying to. Keep your eyes on this space, let's hope. Manji's watching on from the Gold Coast in Australia. Must be very late down there. Good evening to you. Sridhar says, lack of game awareness and unnecessary shots and runouts have cost us dearly. I think that's a really good point. Game awareness is so important in whatever kind of format you're playing. Another question coming in about what if we finish 5th or 6th? Do we save ODI status? Yes, 100%. You hold on to ODI status, but you'll have to play really well to win through to the World Cup still. Gopal says there should be different teams entirely for T20 and ODIs. I don't think there's the player depth to even consider that, but I am very open to the fact that some players will be specialized. So like for me, Arif Sheikh, I would not have in the T20 team, but I think he's a fantastic ODI player. And actually, of those players that I mentioned there, he's another one. He's averaging the best part of 30. He's 4th leading run scorer in that format. Sridhar says, sorry to say we don't deserve ODI format. Would disagree with that. There's 20 teams in the world with ODI format, with ODI status, and definitely they deserve it. Okay, we're going to have 5 more questions across the 2 feeds, but they're going to be good ones. You're going to tell me where you're watching from. We'll start by saying namaste to Pramanand. Lovely. Let's get into this one. This is Dungana, who's watching on from the Cayman Islands. Amazing. He says, I think we bowled really well in our T20 qualifier with brilliant fielding. But in these last 4 ODIs, we were way different. I think that's a really good point. And I did feel I wasn't there, so it's not easy for me to judge as much. And seeing exactly what's happening on the coverage that we get isn't easy at times. There's no stump mics, for example, so you can't hear what the players are saying, etc. So, I think it's a really good point. It did feel like energy was sapped a bit. Maybe the emotions of qualifying for the World Cup and all the emotions of beating the West Indies for the first time had taken a bit of a toll, but you would have expected a bounce back from one of the defeats, and that never really quite happened. Probably lost a crucial enough toss today and seemed to lose all the big moments. Okay, 4 more questions. Parel says, Nepal have won all the matches when Taklidai was commentating, but unfortunately we're not in this series. Please commentate next time. I will try my best. Rohit says, why do the captains go for attacking field after getting a wicket? Why does Rohit go defensive? I was watching from the UK, waking up at 5:30 just to get upset. I don't disagree with that. I think in ODI cricket, you need to be attacking. You need to embrace that Owen Morgan or Brendan McCullum mindset of taking wickets to impact the game and affect the game. And he's got really just that one X-factor bowler at the moment, which is Sandeep Lamichhane, who I thought bowled outstandingly today. Was probably unlucky with one LBW shout there on Shaddad that I thought was hitting leg stump. He could have had, quite a few wickets, but you do have to attack. You do have to take wickets, and it's certainly something that happens. All right, 3 questions to go. Remember to tell me where you're watching from. Vlogs with Nature says, Taklidai, lots of love. Deri Maya. Deri Maya. Thank you so much. That's a little bit more Nepali for me to learn. Very, very kind. Okay. Ishwar says, can I ask you one question, sir? What must the Nepalese team improve in this format? I think it's a bit of everything. Probably, if I had to pick one thing, it would be the consistency of batting and consistency of run scoring. But I would love to see them play their brand of T20 cricket, i.e. the energy and quality bowling in the field in ODIs too. And I didn't feel that was quite there this week. Gopal is watching on from Israel. He says, am I sure that Nepal will save ODI status? No, I'm not. But I think they will have enough depth to get on a winning streak next year and finish at least 6th place. If they play really well, they can still get into the top 4, but a long way to go to that. Okay, 2 questions to go, and then we'll say good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I don't know the name because it's in Nepali script, and I still can't read that yet, but he says, which player do I think from Nepal could play the IPL soon? Well, look, Sandeep Lamichhane is the only one to have done it for a reason. He's probably the player with the most X factor and the most explosive exposure. I think the 2 that have the potential to get there one day would be Gulshan Jha and Dipender Singh Airi. But obviously not Gulshan Jha's best ODI series, but I suppose you're asking me a T20 question. Okay, final question. 1 to go. They're coming in too quick again. Dinesh says very difficult for Nepal to save ODI status. Sandesh Tiwari says, good evening from Nepal. Do you think our players not using feet often against spinners affects us? That's a good point. If you looked at Mohammad Wasim's innings today, not so much against the spinners, but against the pace bowlers, he imposed himself upon them, charged down at Nandan Yadav and Karen Casey. And I think using your feet and being positive, forget about just that 1 point, but being positive with the batting and tuning up less stop balls is key. So, 240, they did well to get up to it. It always felt like it wasn't quite going to be enough, even though they bowled very well for the first 20 overs. And when Wasim came to the crease, he changed the game. And for me, he would have been the player of the match, despite making 20 runs less than, great to see Shaddad get it in his, what was his debut series. And remember that UAE debuted, 5, maybe 6 players throughout this series. They have a lot more depth, it feels, than Nepal right now. And they play an awful lot more cricket in those wonderful facilities across the UAE. That's domestically, I mean, across those D20s, D50s, D10 competitions. They have a huge number of them. They seem to run 9-10 months of the year. And even when they're not, there's other competitions as well. So that's going to wrap it up. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I want to give you a couple of bits of news as well. Tomorrow I'll have a video coming out with the exact permutations of what all the sides need to do and where things stand at the end of the 2025 edition of Cricket World Cup League 2, if you will, or the 2025 cycle of matches. And then I'll just preview all the 2026 permutations and who I feel is going to finish where and what the sides need to do. And then stay tuned for another announcement, a very big one coming soon. I'll leave you on tenterhooks with that. So guys, thanks so much as always for all the kind messages. Pop into the DMs on Instagram or Facebook. I'll try and get back to you across the course of the coming days. And I will say good afternoon, good evening, good night. Hope you feel better. And yeah, hopefully things will get better for Nepal in particular. But this Cricket World Cup League 2, it continues to inspire and loving every second. I'll say good night now.